Didn't I tell you I was on my
What's
mind?
up? It's your brother, your cousin,
Hey, man,
your
get a
uncle,
couple
your
of things
nephew,
on
your
my
friend, but I
chest.
can't be your son. It's your kinfolk. William Jewell. Wow. Giving you my detail as I articulate. This is articulating rap. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn all the notifications on so you can get all the new content when I post it. I just came here to give you my detail and the articulative point of view from close up and far away, microscopic and telescopic, so you could see hip hop through my lens, right? And I mean, as far as music dropping, as far as albums, bodies of work, nothing much has dropped this week that's really keeping people on their antennas, but we get a couple singles. But really, most of the news is the Drake release, right? The Iceman that happened on Thursday. Um, and they still talking about the Thugger leaks. So really, I mean, that's the news on hip hop. So I'm not gonna give y'all any like full album reviews, but I did listen to an album, and I want to start with music. I want to start with a body of work. I want to start with a review. I want to start with Wake Up Super by D Smoke. West Coast native. He is the brother of Sir. I don't know if they're twins. They could be like Malice or Pusha T, but I don't know. But this was very heartwarming. This was very uh solid. It was just cohesive. It sounded well, orchestrated well, just structured and put together, like, and made it easy to listen, made it digestive, but made it touch your spirit, touch your soul. And like Big Crit always said, if it can't touch my soul, then I can't listen to it. And I've always been the one to be overcritical of D Smoke for sounding like Kendrick, and I must admit, on some songs, he did sound like the great value brand Kendrick Lamar. But for the most part, I think he made a conscious effort to kind of stay out of that lane and stay out of that walk of comparison towards Kendrick, especially right now with what Kendrick is doing. But I really like the album. I really like what D Smoke did. Wake Up Super. That's just an album that I think people would really like to hear. He did a song with Snoop Dogg. He did a song talking about his mom. The lyrics was there. The production, I feel like it complemented like what point he was trying to get across, and he kind of told a story throughout the theme of the album, Wake Up Super. So I was really impressed. Now, if I listen to it, more and more, then I could kind of give y'all like more of the storyline and what he was trying to say, what he was trying to tell. But just from that first listen, it was good. And sometimes people say, hey, they don't want to give some people say, hey, I don't want to give, God dang, it's a gnat up in here. Some people say, hey, I don't want to give album reviews on the first listen. So, I mean, these are just my first thoughts. Salute to Rob Markman. Salute to Wayno. Those are two guys that don't give an album review, until they really can sit with it. They give their things that they like about the album so far. So, I mean, for that example, and, when we do these reviews, to really be thorough with how you're grading an album, you definitely need more than 1 to 2 listens. You really need a true 3 listens to really give it a grade and really just dissect it like the way that it needs to be critical of it. So just with that first listen, those are my thoughts on this album. So I wouldn't even say that's my album review, but those are my thoughts on that D Smoke album. And then when it comes to Drake Iceman Part 3, I feel like I don't think I was not expecting him to drop an album. A lot of people were saying they was expecting him to drop an album. And I mean, needless to say, these are 3 tracks back to back, like that you've released, 3 Iceman streams that you release, and you haven't given us a body of work. And just like Drake did with push ups, he's kind of testing the marketplace. He's testing the temperature of the fans. And I mean, you can say which one was not a hit. You could say What Did I Miss was not a hit, but they're still charting on Billboard. So for that fact alone, that's more than any average hip hop artist is doing nowadays. We loved Clips. We loved JID. We loved those albums. We love Freddie Gibbs. And even those albums don't have a song on the Billboard Top 100, although, Clips, they did debut on the Billboard 100. They did debut a couple songs, and even the songs Chains and Whips with Kendrick Lamar. Like, Kendrick Lamar was not even enough to give them that bump on the Billboard Top 100 for a consistent stay. But you never know. Like, these songs grow, these songs gain traction, and they could rise up. But at the end of the day, when we're comparing these artists to Drake, I mean, there's really no comparison as far as popularity, as far as star power, and just his ability to make a song. Like, whether the hip hop fans like it, I don't think that matters that much, because we've always been the minority, although hip hop is the majority, right? It's the culture of America at this point. It's how America moves, especially with that older baby boomer generation dying off and all the Generation X, right? The millennials. We've been raised on hip hop culture, on hip hop philosophy. So we're starting to move at that rhythm as a country, as a nation. So for the majority, I mean, I think Drake still, rings a bell when he makes a song, when he makes music. As far as the Iceman, the strings, I think he's trying to be a little bit too coded. I feel like he's trying to be a little bit too misunderstood, that he's kind of missing the mark. And I don't even think no one is really like diving deep in to what he's actually doing with these Pinocchio things. Like, to be honest, after the first Iceman, I really watched that episode. I guess I skimmed through it. The second one, I skimmed through it, just got to the song and just listened to it. But I heard which one when they previewed it while he was out on tour. So I had already heard that song. But I mean, this song, I can't even give you the name of the song, to be honest, because this wasn't it. This song wasn't it for sure. This song wasn't it. But like they say, the beginning of the song sounded like nostalgia, sounded like an old Drake, sounded like someone we knew, someone we used to love. But then he went on and got into his Atlanta bag, or his Yachty bag, got a little bit more higher pitch, got a little bit more upbeat. So, I mean, Drake, I'm not mad at what Drake is doing as far as rolling out music. At least we know when he drops something, we know to keep our antennas up. I'm not mad at, some of the songs he's doing, because although they're not, top 10 songs, they're still landing and staying on Billboard. So for that, like, I don't see why we hate, or how can you hate that? I think the issue with Drake is he's built his persona up of doing such amount of numbers and being numbers driven among anybody else, and that's always been his card to brag about. And now we seeing that he's not doing the numbers that he used to do, then I think his ego takes a hit. I think it's something that, we can pick and prod as far as what he's not doing that he was doing before, the damage that was done in the battle. I think that's something that we can talk about, but for the most part, it is what it is, right? I talked about the Bobby Adolph interview last time I got on here, but I guess he was sending shots to certain members of the media. I guess he was just sending shots at Rick Ross, and when we talk about the reviews of Iceman episode 3, Kai Cenat didn't have a very glorious review of that song or of that stream. So I mean, really, as far as the Bobby Adolph, like stuff like that is hard for me to watch. Like, I mean, Drake, he is kind of witty. He has his comedy demeanor to him. He's shown that on the ESPY Awards. He's shown his ability to make people laugh, and that's what I liked about Drake. But I don't think you can show that side of yourself and then try to act gangster on the other side, and that's where the misconnect happens. That's where the disconnect happens with the hip hop culture and Drake as a public image, like his brand. It's like, how could you be this way and then act that way on camera and try to sell us this as part of your brand? We don't believe you. You need more people. And I mean, really, to be honest, that's what I've always been saying about Drake. So the fact that he does a Bobby Adolph interview and the fact that he did it in the past and took it down, I think it's a very hypocritical thing to do. I think it's very misleading to your fans and your followers on what you represent, who you want to be, because you can't have this image of mafia, mob, right? Rap a Lot Records, Jay Prince, you know what I'm saying? You can't have this image on one hand and then try to be the funny, comedic, fun-loving guy who's so witty, who knows how to code switch when he's with certain people, right? Because I mean, all that was is a video of him code switching and showing that when he's with these type of people, this is how he act. When he's with us, this is what he shows us. And to me, that's very inauthentic. And like, it goes back to the whole thing about Drake having these dual personalities, the dichotomy, right? You know, wanting to be accepted by this side of the culture, but also wanting some reverence from this side of the culture, and trying to blend them in by code switching, and you're doing it publicly. And to be honest, that's what throws us off. And then we got to go back and listen to the music and hear you say things about gun getting people killed and all that stuff, and it just don't sit well. And speaking of getting people killed, and speaking on Drake, I mean, Thug, he pretty much kind of spilled the beans on the whole 21, on the whole Metro Boomin and Drake issue, right? He spilled the beans. Now the public knows why Metro Boomin and Drake really had an issue with each other. Joe Budden, yes, he forementioned some of what was going on previously, but not to the detail that Thugger did in the leaked calls, right? And you know, let me get this out the way. You talking to your manager, you're talking to your woman, right? I'm a 35-year-old man, right? As far as the street rules, as far as the street codes, like the dude went through a Rico, right? So that is contradicting yourself, going through a Rico, then shunning Gunna for not cooperating in the way that you wanted him to, but also being accepting of your previous mishaps and trying to make excuses or make reasons for why these things were done. So I understand you on a phone call talking to your lady, having a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because your lady asks you about the people you around and you tell them about the people you're around and she tells you about the people she's around and y'all have conversations. That's just relationships, especially if you married, especially if you with somebody for a long time. Just that's the intimacy that y'all share with each other. That's the partnership. Because obviously you got friends, they not gonna want to hear all that talk, so even if you it's not your intentions to have that talk, it's just something that your lady does to you that can have you open up a little bit more and give you space to be more vulnerable and more sharing. So I'm not mad at him for having these conversations. But back to the Metro Boomin and Drake situation, Drake wanted the trance song that is on Heroes and Villains that Young Thug and Travis Scott are on the Heroes and Villains soundtrack. Drake did a version of that song for his Honestly Nevermind album. And right when Metro Boomin's mom got killed abruptly by her husband, like she wasn't sick, nothing was wrong with her. This happened out of nowhere. This happened all of a sudden. This is a tragic death. You understand? You can try to come to grips with something that you know is going to be there eventually, but when your mom is okay and good and then something out of the blue happens, like that's tragic. That's terrible. That catches you off guard. He had to be devastated. And Thug, with his sentiments, he lets the manager know, like, he turning the song from Drake down, bro. He not in the right mindset. And Drake is asking him and his manager, is there a way that y'all can kind of correlate with Metro Boomin so we can get him to sign off on this song? And he was kind of being like pushy and not being concerned about Metro Boomin. Thug was like, bro, if I was out right now, I'll be with Metro Boomin. If I was Drake, I'll go on a plane and I'll pull up on Metro Boomin. Right? But he probably just sent some like very shallow condolences and then he's asking for a favor right after that. So, I mean, we're here now. He's also talking about Kendrick Lamar and Andre 3000 and J. Cole and how nobody put nobody on. You put Keem on, but Keem ain't even really big like that. Like, you ain't gonna never be like Buddy because Buddy is gonna put everybody on. And then when we go back to Squabble Up, when we go back to different songs that Kendrick has lyrically manifested, it's all happening right before our eyes. So these are the things that we kind of got to look at and got to take with a grain of salt. But I mean, like I said, I don't fault Thug. Like, my thing is, I wish Thug would be more quiet. I think he should have took the advice of 21 Savage and not went against Gunna. Because although Dirk went against him, he could have still saved face and been like, hey, they did jump the gun. Like, but, it was because of their loyalty to me. And the fact that Dirk is locked up and probably was locked up before Thug even got out. Who could have known that was going to happen? And Lil Baby, right? When Thug first got locked out, Lil Baby was one of the biggest artists. Dirk was one of the biggest artists out there. Then all of a sudden, they just plummeted. They just dropped. So their cachet doesn't hold as much weight. What they say doesn't hold as much weight, especially not how Lil Baby been dressing. So like what 21 Savage said was very sound and very, thought out advice that he gave Young Thug. Then we go into the Perspectives interview with Big Bang. A lot of people saying Thug is lying. But like to me, that interview humanizes Young Thug. Like whether he's lying or whether he doesn't have the full story of things or whether he's trying to manipulate the people, like the way he came across was authentic. Right? And I might have more to say because I didn't finish the whole interview, but the way he came across was authentic. And I mean, the only reason why people are tough on Thug right now is because he was tough on Gunna. And basically, when we look at what he's done in the past, the same rules could have applied to him. Right? But he won't give a pass to Gunna. So it's just kind of the pot calling the kettle black and everybody finding out, no, the pot's black too. So I think the best remedy is good music. And Thug really has to dig deep and be reflective. Not just be on those surface level rapping. And I think that could be something that could heal some of the wounds. I think that's something that could make people forget about things. But at this point in time, he can't get quiet. Because he should have been quiet, but he wasn't quiet. And now that he wasn't quiet, he needs to go ahead and, finish the sentence. Right? He needs to go ahead and finish out his noisiness. And he needs to end it with a bang. And I think that's an album. That's something that he needs to do. Right? Because, like, if he waits a little bit longer, like the disdain, the trust that people have in him, just the disconnect, right, is going to be more and more. And it's going to be too hard to get in front of and detach yourself from it if you don't address it. So, it's your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, your friend, but I can't be your son. This you for William Jewell L. Giving you my detail as I articulate. This is articulating. Right, right, right.